We back! We are back from the Pink Seats podcast, 2 episodes in like 5 days. This is off-season football, bringing the energy all off-season long. Jacob Lane, producer Keith, Vince Lococo. We've got a lot to get into because there is actual football news, like big news, like breaking news, like you're going to remember where you were type of news. Yeah. You haven't heard? One more time?
We're podcasting like grown men.
There it is. It was only a matter of time before we got that one. Check your bingo cards. But from the Pink Seats podcast, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from. Be sure to subscribe right here on the YouTube channel of the State of Louisville. Follow us on social, as well as the Pink Seats podcast account at Pink Seats Pod. Fellas, this is kind of uncharted territory, okay? In basketball now, we've had Marvin Stone, rest in peace to his great basketball soul, and Zan Payne, okay? Those two guys, if you know what they have in common, that is taking the trip up 64 back to Louisville, right?
Oh, hold on. Let me get ready.
Really crunch into the mic. Get those food perverts going.
Yes, I need that ASMR. But between the screaming to start and then you eating your chili cornflakes over there, man, people are really, really tapped in. But, man, big news. Louisville football makes a personnel move that, honestly, in most years we probably wouldn't bat an eye at. We wouldn't have an episode, per se, to discuss. But considering when your football program has been built around a coach who has kind of rebuilt the program along with his ace recruiter, the candidate for every job that comes available from Bowling Green to the New York Yankees to the Winnipeg Bombers. He's a candidate, right? Hey, I'm just saying he's a candidate, right?
For the
he's
Pope.
A candidate. The Pope, right, exactly. Cincinnati, right? There's been all kinds of rumors, but now he is officially on Louisville football staff. That's Vince Marrow. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight on the show, most of the episode. But there's some recruiting news to get into, some other big stuff happening in college sports. But fellas, this is like where were you type news. Vince, where were you when you saw this? I come to you specifically because I just want to know, where was Vince when he saw this?
My buddy Max texted me to go play simulator golf at the beach with his dad. So I was playing 18 holes on a simulator, and my dad text me, just plain and simple. I mean, kind of like the guy that told George Bush, like he said in the meme he texted us, like that was literally me, like Vince Marrow is going to Louisville. No exclamation points, nothing. Obviously, I think it's fake, and then I get on Twitter and group messages, and everything is just blowing up. Yeah, definitely a where were you moment. I won't forget where I was.
Right. And again, this position, we'll get into the kind of meat and potatoes of this position and kind of where it's going and what it means for Louisville. But this is one of those things that we would normally just would gloss over. It'd be news. You know, Matt McGavick, of course, would write an article about it, but that would be kind of it. You know, it'd be talked about for maybe one day on the news cycle. But I don't think I have seen a piece of news completely destroy a fan base from the inside out like this with Vince Marrow. I mean, look, I want to give the guy his credit, right? Like, obviously we've joked for a long time about, would he come here and take the tight ends position coach back when Braum came in or a couple of years ago? He came, his name came up last year with the position open. There has been a long history here, but he is a guy who has recruited his ass off for Kentucky. And look, Kentucky, we can downplay the last couple of years. They've certainly taken a nosedive as the NIL era has come in. But UK consistently for the last 10 years, every year has beaten most years a top 10, 15 football team. Or, we've seen them beat the number one team in the country before. We've seen them compete, right? Like, let's give them their flowers for a quick second. Was it last year? They almost beat what was it, LSU or Georgia last year when they were number one in the country? It was a Mark Stoops coaching fumble late in the game. But my point being, this is the only time you're ever going to hear me say this, and then I'm going to start shitting on him immediately after this. They have built a program with a lot of talent that has believed in a pipeline in a couple of states, similar to like Louisville has done with Florida, and they've built and they've found talent, and they've been able to send guys to the NFL. And you guys know, Vince, you know this. You get a couple of guys in the NFL, and it's a rolling. It's a machine. You can really just recruit guys, say, look at what they did, and that's what Vince Marrow has done. And so he comes to Louisville. as the general manager. But I think the title is going to be what? Director of Player Personnel. I saw Mike tweeted it yesterday, but really he's just in charge of roster management, right? Like and recruiting. He's kind of, and I don't know oh man, I've forgotten his name, but Coach Hova, who has been that's definitely, I don't think they call him that, right? What's his name? What's the freaking coach recruiting? What's the recruiting
Coach
coordinator?
Hova.
Coach
Yeah,
Hova. Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm saying it out loud, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. But
No,
he's been behind the
that's it.
scenes, was a huge portion of the 2023 class, 2024. But it's kind of like they've taken bits of Greg Brom's role, bits of Deion Branch's previous role, and then rolled it into this position. And if you all saw, Morrow's got a chance to make over $1 million in incentives and stuff. I mean, it's just insane.
That's what I was curious about. I didn't see the details of the contract. What are all the incentives and stuff like that? What is it?
Great question. Keith, you probably know more than I do, but the one thing I do know is because he's not coming over as a position coach, there was no buyout that had to be paid.
That.
That's a huge financial maneuver for Louisville. Like for how they're building.
It's a big financial maneuver. Keith, before you get going on the details, it's a huge financial maneuver, but it's also a big extra middle finger to UK. On the way out.
Yeah, it's Bobby Petrino holding the coach up on the field like that, shaking his lunch money out type of move. Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead. I've talked a lot.
Well,
let's hear what you got.
No, I was just going to say that we don't have any details yet. If you take a trip along the boards, the speculation there is that we should expect to see some news later in the week from both sides. So not quite sure what the incentives are going to be. If it's a lot like a standard head coach contract, there's probably incentives for hitting XYZ win totals, making a conference championship game, winning a conference championship, winning a national championship. There's probably something in there for making the playoffs. So
GPA is the easiest way they get their bonus.
Okay, here's a new route. Here's a new route. I'm being honest with you. Retention rate. Bonus retention rates. Like if Vince is able to help retain 50% of the roster, give them a bonus off of that, and each step up of retaining the roster or bringing new guys in. I think that you could, that's we're getting into the day and age of commission and recruiting. That's what, that's kind of what this is in a way.
I'm just excited to see what he can do because I've always thought that he's better at a role like this. Granted, I mean, I haven't paid attention to him much at his position outside of CJ Conrad, this is the role that he's needed for a long time, I think, that he's going to excel the most at.
Yeah. Keith, what's the tight end room been like? I'm not asking you this because you're a Kentucky stan secretly. I ask you this because you're a college football ball knower. What's the tight end room been like at Kentucky over the last, decade while he's been the coach there?
I mean, if you ask a lot of Kentucky fans, I assume they would say disappointing because you bring in these standout guys expecting all these big things from them, and then they haven't really developed, which is kind of why I love the role that we're laying out for him. So I assume we're going to dive more into initial feelings on the hire and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
If we're in a role where he doesn't have to develop player, just get him in the door and let our staff take care of it. Yeah. Perfectly fine with it.
He's a head of sales. That's his role right now.
I'm curious as to how much time he actually has to spend on the practice field.
Zero.
You know what I mean?
I hope zero.
Yeah. It's just wild. Everybody talk. Obviously, the big thing is how can he make that flip? And it's there's so many there's so many kids that have made that flip.
Have you ever seen a ship sink before? One coach here at one point deemed it the Titanic and jumping off the Titanic.
How dare you jump off the Titanic?
I think my man was like, nope, I got a lifeboat right here. I'm good. I'm going to go with that. Call a spade a spade.
Which one of you two compared it to 2018 Louisville? Because
that was not either of us. That was
Presley?
Mark Ennis. That was Mark Ennis.
Oh, Mark Ennis.
And I sent that in the group chat to just kind of throw your way to sense out the 2018 vibes. And just to see what you were thinking on that. But,
I completely I don't think we really had anybody. Well, Galloway left. No, did Galloway leave? I can't remember who all was left.
I think Galloway was still there that year, and the joke was that he wasn't recruiting at all, wasn't going into high school.
He ran off the Granthams and stuff. It's he ran off so many good coaches, and it's Stoops is kind of in that spot where he's running people off, and you just ran off
Who's his whammy? That's what I want to know. Like, who is Coach Stoops' whammy? That's
The O-line
question
coach.
this year.
They just gave the O-line coach a raise. I mean, God bless.
So, Louisville podcast, but just quick second. If Vegas is right, and let's say they go 4-8, I believe someone did the math on it. Counting the assistant coaches to clean house of the football program, it would be over $50 million. Yeah,
Hey, that's why you LLC. Hey, they LLC'd ahead of this shit because they knew what was coming. Honestly, I'd pay every penny of it. The prayer is that somebody comes in and Satterfields him. Like, somebody comes in and poaches him and pays whatever money, whoever.
They had their shot with A&M.
I know, and they fumbled the bag,
no.
right?
Kentucky, get your Kentucky fans, if you're tuning into this, one, why? But
Yeah.
thanks.
Well,
I tuned
two,
into KSR today. I can't lie.
Dude, look, it's prime content right now. I've watched so many videos today. I read an article of a grown man literally comparing Vince Marrow to a dog. It was just
Hey,
yeah.
look, I don't give a lot of flowers out on this show, but I'm definitely going to give some flowers to Ty Spalding and the amount of shit that he has been talking
dude,
the past 2 days.
My
bro,
man kept the receipts, right?
Oh,
yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Look, for the amount of
Peak
shit
petting.
that UK fans give him, like he deserves to
yeah.
have his moment here.
But no, basically, yeah, Kentucky fans, if you're here, start your prayer circles, your manifestation, whatever you got to do that Kirk Ferentz decides, hey, this is the offseason, I hang him up. Because that's the only way.
Best hope that like you got to pray to God if you're a Kentucky fan.
Extra dagger in that day. Roll wave.
Yes.
Yes.
John Summerall with a good old roll wave out of nowhere.
Kentucky fans, before you leave, fun fact, Tulane has more football SEC championships than Kentucky.
Oh, that's incredible. I didn't know that.
I talked about this at work today, but get ready for the Jeff John rivalry because I think it unfortunately might be coming over the next couple of years. I think John Summerall is the guy that I would pay if I was them. You said that number $50 million. I'm getting this LLC. I'm going out and getting Saudi money. We're going out and getting Qatar money. We're paying that buyout and we're bringing John Summerall in to be the head coach. And then again, the rivalry is like that's gonna be competitive.
Who's gonna be the first university to go ask the Crown Prince if he wants to be involved in college football?
It was fucking Colorado. It was Colorado. The dude went out there and got fired for it, man.
Texas A&M has campuses in Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
They're already there
in Saudi Arabia. Yeah,
and you really don't think it's not going to be the Saudi Knowles? Come on.
Look, ever since the homeboy didn't eat poop, life's downhill. They're not getting Saudi money now.
They wish they had somebody like you. They wish.
All right, let's recenter the conversation here. Let's talk about Louisville.
Big dog.
What does this mean for Louisville, right? So he is general manager. There's a, go out and you can check the X, Y, and Z articles out there of what his exact role will be. Again, we talked about recruiting, player retention, just general sentiment. Like he's just going to be like, the guy, the buddy of the team, checking in when he wants to, going out recruiting, getting more guys. But Keith, I'll come to you first. What does this mean for Louisville? What do you, let's just start there. What does this mean for Louisville in terms of future recruiting?
Well, I think first off, it means that Jeff Brom, to quote Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon, I think he's finally saw the recruiting scene and just decided, I'm too old for this shit. Wants to bring in someone to explicitly manage the recruiting side. And honestly, if that lets our coaching staff even focus 1% more just on development, on game planning, maybe we don't have the random Jeff Brom refractory period game because he's not burnt out from having to spend all season constantly recruiting before training camp. So who knows? I think in the end, it's a good thing because it's going to expose the program to a lot more high-end talent in a lot of areas where we haven't been able to really go in and grab guys for quite some time.
Yeah.
So, and it shows that Louisville's really trying to take a forward-thinking approach, I feel like, to what college football is going to become, to where the job's going to become too big for a head coach to really do it all. So you need someone to help manage and maintain the roster.
Right. And you can go one of two ways with that. You can have a head coach who is hands-on football, Jeff Brom, every detail, or you can have a hands-off head football coach not Deion Sanders is not a great example of, but like somebody that handles the big picture, right? Jim and Michael Scott. Like we got day to day and we got big picture, and you have somebody who like there are some coaches that are the GM, the talent about they do everything else in the football. Like they want to delegate that to their coordinators, to their assistants. So
I think Deion's a fantastic example there. You sell yourself short.
Sure, but you get my point though, right? Like there's two different approaches to that. Jeff Brom says, I want to focus on football. I want to just sit in my living room on a Friday night. I don't want to go out to the games locally unless it's Trinity.
Yeah, I was getting
ready
to say,
unless it's Trinity. I'm not trying to go
about.
catch Cal and Eastern on a Friday night, catch me at the Trinity game, and then at pastime afterwards.
Yep.
But no, I think Jeff Brom is like you said. I think this is a position that allows him to focus on football and allows him to get into the nitty gritty details of what he's good at. And there's a big dog coming to a campus near you on Friday nights. Eastern, Cal, Butler, PRP.
He was already there. He's just switching colors.
Yeah, now he's wearing red, and he gets to go out and do the Friday night thing and be the celebrity and enjoy what he does and be the life of the party. And then Saturday, I'll sit in that press box. I might come down to the field. We'll see. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the Friday. Like that's the role that he has now. Yeah. It's going to be a great job for him. That man's he's going to like go backwards in age by like 15 years. Like he is just like the stress coming off of his shoulders. You'll see it like just a happier guy.
See him at like events that we like alumni events that we do. That like
it's going to be weird.
Yeah, it's going to be so weird to see him. I mean, I'm excited for what he can do to piggyback off you guys. I'm excited to recruiting wise what he can do in the state of Ohio. I mean, I'm just really excited.
Let's go.
And just about every ball player I've met from there at the collegiate level could play in some shape or fashion. So,
I think that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about, which is like that's such a From the Pink Seats podcast thing to be excited about the state of Ohio. That's like we go up there every now and again, and you get a 3-star. You get a guy. I don't really count him as an Ohio guy, but Austin Collins was in Perrysburg. Had been at Cal before, but we've gone to Ohio and recruited the Luke Kandras of the world and other guys in the past, the Eric Woods. But at this point, it's a little bit different, right? You can go out and you can recruit Youngstown and more rural areas, Canton, some of the Toledo, outside of Toledo, the Ohio farm boys. Like you can truly get in there with the relationships, and he can impact bringing I think the big thing, 4 or 5-star kids from that area are going to start being like big time targets for Louisville.
And now I'm thinking like, how are these conversations going? Like, cause I know he shit on us before to kids.
Yeah.
So like I'm wondering just how this like, hey, remember how I was talking bad about this is just so wild to me. Like I'm still in a state of shock.
Yeah.
Of all
Look,
this.
man, money does one thing above all else, and money talks. I'll walk back a lot of things if you pay me enough.
You know what really talks is your mental sanity and job security. Job security talks a lot.
Bingo. Titanic.
Yeah.
You can either go down with it and then try to figure it out underwater, or you can get out early.
Look, and I'm going to make a comp. Sat starts flirting with South Carolina. Who jumped ship? Ledford. Who jumped ship? Other people. And it's just a whole trickle down effect of once people start hearing you're flirting around. Yeah. Well, if you're flirting around, I'm going to go flirt. Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on him pulling a Tuberville? He offers that big, like Swedish or Swiss tight end, a spot at Kentucky, and then I think like 2 hours later, the news breaks. Yep, he's coming to Louisville.
Look, hey, bring them all. Let's go. We got Kendrick Gilbert already made the trip up. I should have included him earlier in my Marvin Stone and Sand Payne list, but look, they've already made the track up. Look, hey. If you're out there, Courtney Love, former defensive lineman at UK, and you want to make the trip up and apologize to all of us for throwing the trash can and be welcomed in, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
So to touch on the documentaries, I thought you were going to ask a different Courtney Love for an apology.
Yeah,
so I was ready to go there.
Bleach big time.
Wasn't that the dude's name that threw the trash can? I'm pretty sure it was in 2017.
I don't think Courtney Love wasn't the guy. He was a different.
I'm pretty sure it was. That was the guy at UK who threw the trash can. I'm pretty sure. Research
all right,
Presley. Where you at? No, but here's what I want to ask off of that, Keith.
When I search Courtney Love on Google, it's some white woman with blonde hair. What's up with that?
Yeah. Careful what you search on Google. Negatives, though, I saw people kind of joking about this, but obviously he's got a relationship with a lot of UK media, Matt Jones in particular. We've already known that Matt Jones for
Jordan
years
Jones.
was the mole. Jordan Jones. Okay, I was way off, man.
Yep.
Wow, I don't know.
I
where
just
Courtney
remember
Love
that
came
off
from.
the dome too.
No, that's the dude that Lamar fought in the end zone. That's not the guy that threw the trash can.
He
The
I
trash
thought
can
that was a
thrower-
country music artist.
Yeah.
We are all over the
We
place
are,
tonight.
but this is, I'm enjoying this because I'm pretty sure his name was Courtney Love, the big guy that threw the trash can on the sideline. But man, I totally lost my train of thought.
Negatives.
Yeah,
Matt Jones.
But Matt Jones, UK.
Denzel Ware.
Yeah, I don't think that's it.
That's what
either.
AI just
Okay,
told me.
okay.
In 2017,
yes.
Sea Blue reports that Denzel
Yeah.
Ware, Kentucky Wildcat linebacker, grabbed a trash can and used it during a fight between Kentucky and Louisville.
You're right. Allen
So,
Iverson's right
actually,
on that one. You're right.
Hold on. Watch me spin this. That actually is my concern.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the culture that program has had with Marrow being the primary recruiter of it, the type of kids that he brings in. Yes, he brings in some talented players, but you have the sweatpants mafia always doing crap before games, trying to instigate fights. You have people throwing trash cans and doing shit on the sidelines. You have guys at the fucking concession stand during a game.
That's more stupid.
Like,
that's way more stupid.
and that's sort of what I'm holding on to. Like, hey, Coach Brom can maintain the reins on these guys.
I'm not expecting Marrow to enforce any rules. Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
No,
I expect him to get here and Jeff Brom does the rest.
I
Get him here
agree.
and Jeff does the rest.
So you have the chief of staff, you have the GAs, the class check. You have guys that are checking behavior. So I kind of agree with that, but I don't know, man. He's got to be like the voice of reason and also like play good cop, bad cop when Jeff's mad or when Jeff,
he needs to play good cop with, hey, Jacob, I get you just got cussed out by coach, but like this is what he's just trying to say to you. Like, I get it. You know how coach gets. He's pissed off. Blah, blah, blah. Just went on X, Y, and Z today. Like, you have real conversations. I don't think he's going to be a disciplinarian, accountability buddy kind of guy or anything like that. I think he's going to recruit, get the guys here, likely be buddy during practice. The guy cutting up on the side might throw you some pointers here and there at the tight end position, wide receiver position, wherever he can. But outside that, I don't expect him to be that guy.
Well, and I guess my primary concern is if you're getting kids with that kind of attitude, a lot of times when, especially in today's day and age, when you run into that adversity, you get your ass chewed out by a coach, it's just going to turn into a turnstile if you compromise the culture and the type of kid you've been recruiting and bringing in, like we have, like we've seen under Brom, where they aren't necessarily the most like star rated guys, but they come in and a lot of these guys are culture fits. They buy into what we're doing. They're not just trying to get a bag or to promote themselves.
Yeah. We've seen what Brom does to the guys that are against the culture and against the movement, right? Like the Penny Boones, the Tyler Barons, the Wesley Walkers, the guys that came in, and whether it was their agents or them, they caused enough issues for Jeff to say, pack your shit and go, right? And no one's bigger than the program. No coach is bigger than the program. Jeff has a certain standard that he's going to withhold his recruiters to. But, I think there's opportunity as you get the right staff and the right support system to go out and find certain players that, might not necessarily have the best path, and you figure it out. But I also agree with you, though. I agree. You cannot, over time, you recruit enough, and I'm going to use this guy as an example, and I feel bad because it's not fair to him, but Keontae Goodwin, you recruit enough of those guys that are hopping school to school, big name, looking for whatever.
Bad example.
Okay.
They had to take him based off aspirations, Jim.
Okay, and that's fair. Look,
they had to keep
I said
that
bad example. I said bad example.
Yeah.
But he's the highest rated recruit that Morrow had. And he went from, was recruited by Kentucky, decommitted, was back, went to Michigan State. Florida. It like was all over the place. So my point with that one is just, and I said a bad example before, because I've heard by all accounts, great kid. But you've got to be able to get kids that aren't going to be a revolving door if they don't get a clock, right? Or you've got to just be able to figure that portion out. And I think he'll be able to do that under Jeff.
Yeah, and now I just want to say, not an overwhelming concern. I have confidence in Coach Brom, and just They've been friends for a long time. He knows Jeff doesn't play any shit. Why would you try to bring in a guy that's not going to stay? You know what Jeff needs. And I mean, you asked me for a concern. I had to come up with something because you already took the KSR connection off of there. So
fucking Matt Jones. That's the last thing I need is Matt Jones having a damn connection into the football program. The thing I love the most about Louisville, Matt Jones is infiltrated. Like, God, that pisses me off just even thinking about it. But
another thing.
I've loved watching these grown men almost
optimistic?
cry.
Wait.
Yeah. No, you're not,
Next.
though.
I'm not concerned about that. I'm not concerned about the Matt Jones connect.
It's not that. I think we're all very optimistic. Like, you don't make this move if you have Jeff's not gonna fuck around with Matt Jones. He doesn't have time for it.
No, I don't think Vince
No.
is gonna be like at the first sign of like him, or not even first, like third, fourth sign of him getting pissed off, gonna run to Matt Jones and be like, "Hey, bro, you know what's happening over here?"
Here's what I would love to happen. It'll never happen. Like, preface, this will never happen. But picture it for me. Kentucky has a really tough football season. Louisville, 10-2, wins the ACC title, 11-2, college football playoff berth.
Yes.
That Monday, KSR, studio lights are dark. Lights come on. Matt Jones in a Floyd Street Media polo. The ultimate heel turn.
The ultimate heel turn. That's hilarious.
I'd be right behind him with the NWO belt.
I think that I did not expect that to be where you ended up going with that. That's
good,
fantastic. But I can't wait. One, on that Monday after the season, they're going to be talking about John Summerall. So, like, no matter what happens in that final game against Louisville, we already know their talking points 6 months ahead of time. Okay, like,
roll wave.
I can tell you already that's going to be the time. But we got to go with whatever just happened. We got to go out. We got to make the move. Whatever. But I want to see an 11-1, 12-0, 10-2 Louisville football team absolutely pummel UK, and who else holds up the Governor's Cup but Vince Marrow? Ultimate, just the best moment that I could ever imagine.
Him and Kendrick Gilbert.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just glorious times here. So yeah, let us know what you think about it. I think, it's a very polarizing topic. I've already heard just today at work, like every person, I don't know if you all encounter this at work being the football like podcast guy, but every time there's news, people are like, what do you think about? So I talked about this a ton today. It's hilarious.
My boss is in one of the Carolinas for baseball right now. I've mentioned on the show before, he's a season ticket holder for UK
big
football.
time UK fan.
So
yeah.
I wanted to put some Fritos on his desk this morning, but
not only is he a big UK fan, but he has given Vince shit for years. Yeah. Football, basketball. Like Vince is for years had to walk into his office on a Monday knowing like the shit.
Kenny Payne made it so bad. Right. The best I could do is be like, look, guys, I don't even watch anymore. I'm not even I'm a football guy.
The one game I went to, they won. Okay, let's transition. Let's talk a little recruiting because we are in the early portions of June. We start fall camp is a month and a half away, essentially.
Is it? I'm so happy I don't have that on my calendar anymore.
But you might have forgotten, but that you do, because on this show we're going to talk about the
day
of camp,
I mean, that's
just
camp.
We'll be out there, live practice, all that stuff.
It's another
right?
day, though.
But you don't have to go hide under a table like you told us years ago, or sleep in a corner.
I slept under a pool table.
Yeah, whatever. Same thing. Hide under a table, sleep under a table. Is it any different? But Louisville is still actively recruiting, and you may ask yourself, where, why, how? We are really close to the season starting. But here we go. Portal Combat. We are back 3.0. One guy, new name on the radar for Louisville football, Nigel Williams, defensive back, cornerback out of New Mexico. Kind of random news on a early portion of the week today from 24/7 Sports. Chris Hummer reporting that the New Mexico transfer would be visiting Louisville in the upcoming weeks. You guys have been talking for the last couple of episodes about high school recruiting, like that is on fire right now. But the portal, we've been talking for a couple of weeks that we thought it was over. Louisville's roster was made up. They weren't going to add anybody. We might agree or disagree on that, but Louisville is clearly still in the market and trying to, go without covering every stone. And so Nigel Williams He was a guy that played at Northwestern. Didn't get a lot of playing time, but went to New Mexico for his final season or his senior season, and really played well. 58 tackles for a cornerback. Like, that's extremely impressive. 36 solo. This is a guy that's not afraid to put his head down and make a play. No interceptions. I certainly wouldn't want to be a defensive back in the portal with no interceptions.
2 pass. Is that 2 PDs?
2 PDs, yeah. 2 pass deflections, yeah. So he's a guy that's, look, he's more of run support, it seems like, making plays in the open field. But still, Louisville's showing you something that we have been saying on this show since the first portal window closed, and that is the defensive backs probably aren't where they want them to be depth-wise, talent-wise. Like, I think we can all look at it on paper compared to last year and say, okay, they're probably not there. So, Keith, this kid comes in. You're a fan of the coach that he played for last year. Tell me a little bit about what you like about Nigel Williams.
Yeah, so, like, realistically, if we do end up adding him, it's probably going to be for a depth piece. Like, I wouldn't expect him to go out and get a ton of snaps. This is a guy who you want to come in, be a solid player in the locker room. He's a veteran player. Make sure your younger kids are doing the right things. And big Bronco Mendenhall fan. He's, for the new adventure of who that is, last year he was at New Mexico and played under Bronco Mendenhall. And he runs a very similar ship to Coach Braum culturally.
Yeah, but
So-
what number was this kid? Was he 98 or was he number 2? Like, what? We know the number system.
28.
Bronco Mendenhall. Okay, so he's somewhere in the middle. If you go back to the Virginia days, what was it that Bronco wouldn't give you a jersey until the end of the week based off your performance, and you might be number 98 as the quarterback. Like, I love that.
All right, how about
I love it.
How about when you coach a shitty football game, we take your title away as head coach and we demote your ass to offensive coordinator? How about that, coach?
But you look at some of the offers that this kid's had out of the portal: Tulsa, Ball State, UTEP, UC Davis, Idaho, Rice, Campbell. Don't expect him to come in and be a starter right away, but you can expect a veteran presence. Not afraid, like you said, not afraid to stick his head in and make a play. And, the spin zone, and we'll put a little positive spin on it. If you don't have a ton of interceptions, it means not a lot of passes are coming your way, probably. And
That's
also,
a good point.
This is a
Very great counterpoint.
Can I spin zone your spin zone?
Spin zone is spin zone, please.
So my spin zone on your spin zone, I think you know where I'm going with this, Keith, is if he has a lot of tackles, not a lot they're
Now-
probably catching the fucking ball.
Now, I will spin zone your spin zone. You've activated my trap card.
Oh,
It's a triple spin. You can't triple spin zone a double
he
spin
sat
zone.
down
No
with
way.
no reverse. I sat one down, and then he sat one right back.
So this is a very versatile kid who wasn't explicitly playing only outside corner. He's also a guy that plays nickel. This could be potentially the backup star player that we've been looking for
I
a
like
long
that.
time.
I
He
can
has
see
the
it, man.
versatility. He can play in and out. He's not afraid to go make contact, engage with blockers. I could see this kid being the Antonio Watts backup that we lost. So
Yeah.
just at a glance, that's kind of where I see him sort of having the best chance of seeing the field slotting in at. But
Yeah.
no, I said it in the group text before the show. If he's good enough for Bronco Mendenhall,
He's
good enough for me.
He's good enough for Keith Artoff, right? I did see that. I think in the 2 seasons where he had, a couple of games played at Northwestern, he didn't have a lot of statistics. That tells me that he's a special teams guy. So that's not something I'm willing to turn away at this point. Those are invaluable. We
Right.
saw last year how special teams can impact a game. Who says he can't be this year's Dan Foster or Richard McKinley or somebody that came in? They didn't have a big role, but they fit in. The guys clearly loved him. They gravitated towards him. They were leaders. They were experienced. They could provide some of that thing, some of the intangibles in the locker room. I think at this point, he's not going to be a guy that makes a huge impact. But the difference in winning a championship culture-wise to going 9-3, 8-4 are the margins, and guys like this that can improve the competition, that can, push Jabari Mack, push Justin Agoop, push, Richard, Rodney Johnson, push the corners, Antonio Harris. Who says he couldn't just be Antonio Harris's mentor for a year? Those things are invaluable. So I think you take it if it fits. We'll see what happens this weekend. But if it doesn't, it's not, it's not like we're going to be like, oh my gosh, what happened? Nigel Williams didn't commit. What happened, guys? He's been available since December, so
he's just taking his time.
Yeah, if a player's still in the transfer portal at this point, there's probably a reason why the player's still in the portal at this point. But again, if he's a culture
coach wouldn't give me enough film.
Oh my god!
I hate how good you did that.
That is,
bro. I've been there, done that.
Back thing I've ever heard. Yeah. That is a defensive back if I've ever heard it.
Man, that took me back to like when we'd get transfers from programs coming into Georgetown. It's just like, man, whew, send me back. Give me the Vapus.
Yeah. Well, you guys talked about recruiting this week. Louisville's been active. Obviously, we'll save this for the next episode. But some changes in the class of 26, some commitments, some guys they were hot after could change a little bit. We could see some folks become targets that we weren't talking about yesterday or the day before. So recruiting is certainly going to continue to be a topic of interest. And honestly, I was kind of thinking about this today. This is the most we've ever covered recruiting on this show this offseason.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Typically, we've been really interview heavy in the offseason, and it's been great to kind of see the foundation that Braum and company are laying and how that's going to set, not only this year up for success, but for the years in the future.
Zone, is that because nobody wants to come on our show?
Some are saying that all of your relationships have aged out of the program. Some are saying that. I don't know if that's true. Yeah,
yes. I told Dwayne Martin that if he wants an invite to my wedding, he has to come on our show. So
that's a fair invite, or a fair trade. I think
spin zone to that. All the alumni who we would be trying and would normally be getting on the program are now finding spots on NFL or UFL teams.
Boom.
Speaking of which, I mentioned UFL. I'm going to shoehorn this in somehow.
Do it.
Shout out UFL championship game coming up. Momo Sonogo, friend of the pod, came on the
Love
program.
it.
DC Defenders taking on the Michigan Panthers, and it's going to be the first UFL where Birmingham isn't going to be winning the championship.
That's awesome.
The Holtz era has finally ended.
That's awesome. Some were
That's
calling
the
it
one
a
thing I
dynasty.
like in DC. Let's go. Sorry, go ahead, Vince. What'd you say?
I said some were calling it a dynasty. I heard what you said. You fucking idiot.
I'm just saying. Look, it's a great thing about DC. Right?
Well, don't you like food? The food
Best
there?
football team. All right, so let's move forward a little bit here. Last thing, typically we end the show with the segment we've been doing all off season. What are you talking about? But this week, the house settlement is really the topic du jour. As you guys know, this impacts Louisville because, of course, NIL is everything at this point, right? Like now it's legal, essentially has taken over college sports and really dictates the talent that Louisville has across basketball, football, baseball. When basketball gets really good, we got to worry about, is football not getting enough? It's been really a big change of the guard. But we're seeing a new age in college football, and a check of $2.50 has recently arrived on the doorstep of Vince Coco for his time.
Yes.
We've thanked him for his 2
2
ACL tears with the $2.50 and a pat on the back.
Oh, I got my valuation back. There
we go.
Worry.
What'd you get? $5. Double.
No, I'm not gonna.
sales.
I'll tell you my valuation after this because I was actually surprised. But it's crazy how this stuff gets broken down. Into like how much I would have been getting paid through a TV deal, through the video game, through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
and
you'd be
and
my
the
starting
numbers
linebacker.
start to add up
Mhm.
really quick, and you're like, oh,
We call
so
that residual income, baby.
this
That's what
is-
you want.
this is cool. I'm here for it. I mean, people like not necessarily me. Like you joke, Jacob. Like realistically, I probably only get like $2.50.
Yeah,
Like
right.
we're like
$2.50.
I would be lucky to get that. But just some bigger name guys that like I don't know, CJ Avery, like a CJ Avery type deal. Somebody who played
James Hearns.
James Hearns, Devontae Fields, some of those guys.
Trayvon Young.
Yeah, there's
Like a guy like Trayvon, like. He suffered a pretty devastating hip injury. He's probably going to have problems with that for the rest of his life. Being able to financially kind of, come to grips with what happened, whether it's enough to cover medical bills, probably not. But point being, like, you feel justified for the blood and sweat and tears you poured out.
Yeah, it's cool. And just
for $2.50.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for showing up and getting yelled out by Bobby Petrino. Here's a check for you, Vince.
Well, I like to think in my head that all spun into me getting on this amazing
Look,
podcast.
if you didn't tear 2 ACLs, I wouldn't have been interested. Like that, I have a thing for damaged people. You know, that's just. Kind of I'm kidding. But last thing here. I'm sorry. It's been a day. But the house settlement. I think it was Saturday night. I was sitting in bed watching, I think it might have been the triple overtime of the hockey game. And we get this breaking news at midnight that the judge that has been oversighting the case for NIL and college athletics has ruled in favor of a revenue share, and effective July 1st, college sports essentially changes forever, right? And that will allow programs to be able to pay athletes directly, which will change the landscape of collectives and really what we've been seeing the last few years. But year one, programs are going to be capped at essentially about $21 million, let's say, and what they can spend on rosters. And I think it's really interesting when the House, or when this agreement or when this kind of recommendation was put forth, there was percentages on rosters and how it would look. And college football, of course, when you're talking about a 105-man roster now, it's going to take the majority of the money. But recommendations on 75% of that cap going to football, 15 to 20 on basketball, and then the rest of sports, if you do the math, they get whatever is left. And it really is going to set up a very interesting few years in college sports. Keith, I know you've been following this really closely. We talked weeks ago about Donald Trump, getting this committee.
Yeah, that's a bit ironic. You two talking Trump without the one guy that actually voted for him. All right.
I thought you'd wear your red hat tonight, man. I really did. But Keith, we've talked about this for a while. This is no small change, hypothetical. I mean, this is happening. We're seeing this in real time. I'll kind of leave it at that. Right. We're seeing this happen around us. It's certainly a change. How is this going to impact college football? Like, what are you kind of thinking about as a big college football guy?
Pros. It finally opens the door to schools being able to directly pay athletes. Cons. While this is a settlement for a separate court case, ironically enough, with someone whose last name was House, this cap is going to get thrown out in court almost immediately. The NCAA does not have antitrust exemption, yet they're lobbying like hell trying to get it. So they don't have that. And there is not a unionized body where students are considered employees of either the school or the conference or anything like that. So
that was my favorite topic after conditioning, Keith. We should just union up, guys. There's no way.
Right. Please,
Well,
after this episode, can you please text me who started that every time? Because I have an idea.
You act like it was just one person, bro.
Bro, there wasn't nobody on that team that was going to unionize the damn.
It was never. Do you think we have the brains to figure out how to? No.
There's a reason that started at a school like Dartmouth and Northwestern.
Yeah, right.
Or Louisville,
Yeah.
right?
So
bunch of dudes with 16 ACTs who barely got in. Talking about we're going to unionize.
I
bro.
got a 19. I got a 19. Relax.
Right. Sorry, go ahead, Keith.
So I don't expect this cap number to be in place anytime soon. When it comes to the future, at some point when either employees are treated as employees, when athletes are treated as employees of either the schools or I think the easiest way would be to make them employees of the conference as a whole. But at some point when they are an employed entity and can have a players union, and then you can try to negotiate a cap, and let's just say for 5 years down the road, we do get that, and there is a cap that gets negotiated and in place, which if that ever happened and I was a player, I would be chewing the shit out of my union rep because I am very anti-cap. You could see a program, I think it's 75-25 football, basketball, and then you call on the alums of your non-revenue sports like, hey, you like your program?
Right.
It's on you.
Take care of it, right? Yeah, we can only do so much.
And then maybe if you have boosters that are super passionate about, and the thing I'm most suspicious about is the NIL valuation, the NIL Go Plus from
Sounds like a damn
Deloitte.
streaming service.
Exactly.
Right.
So where it's asking athletes to like self-report and then they're going to submit deals over a certain amount. The return of the bag man is on the horizon and I can't wait.
Yeah, the return of the bag man.
Just
Yeah,
remember,
you're exactly right.
Your school is always on the up and up, and if you ever lose a recruiting battle to another school, them some bitches cheating.
That's right. Put money in a shoebox, right? Paying the rent at the Gold House.
If there is a collegiate football player union, we'll never have a fucking game. We'll never play. They'll hold out until the end of time.
That's the next step. Like the next step in this is 100% going to be whether it's the class of 26, 8, whatever, whoever it is, one of these classes, the guys are going to figure it out and it's going to lend itself towards unionizing, but we're nowhere near close to that. So for the next couple of years, what's going to happen is the collective might not be called the collective, but the collective is going to be collecting money to put into the fund to pay other players. Like we're going to find ways to get money, put it under the table, no self-reporting, those things.
I would argue that it's much, much, much more likely that the NCAA finally slides enough greenbacks into enough politicians' pockets to where they just get antitrust exemption. So then they just get to violate labor laws because lulz. So at that point, then you can start to do some of the things like movement restriction and capped revenue share and capped paying. So I think that's the most likely route, but for the players' sake, I hope it's more the unionized route.
Yeah, look, Trump surrounded himself with the AD at Notre Dame, and where's the guy from Cal Berkeley? Like, why aren't we getting the president out of Cal Berkeley into these meetings? Like, let's get a little bit more liberal and.
Hey, let's be careful about getting the University of California. They're the first ones who jumped at the private equity funding, UCLA.
Yeah. Bottom line, Keith, is none of these kids could do the two-a-days that we had to go through. No. Back in our day, Keith and I, we'd be off on the sidelines, and trainers would hand us a water bottle and a cigarette and tell us to go on.
You got screamed at by a coach for the love of the game.
Yeah, my NIL stand for not interested in losing, man.
Dude, I just think I would have been completely effed as a sport administration major during this time period, because everything I wrote about as a SPAD major was how student athletes should be getting paid.
Same. I literally put my entire thesis into every major class I had at U of L into that. It is a cause that still to this day, you guys know this, I try to not be too loud because nobody cares, but I work in advertising, and NIL is something that I am very passionate about, have worked on several local clients with, have been very involved with the collective here. I know this process very well, and I can tell you we're headed towards a very interesting day and age. NIL still is not yet about advertising and brand marketing. That's what we were sold. We're not there yet. We will get there eventually. That will be where a lot of this money comes at some point.
NIL's about winning damn games. Go out there and win your games. Y'all boys going to get paid. Win your game, you'll get paid.
And give me more film.
I thought I was on a virtual call with Deion Sanders there for a second. Vince, good job. Now, for your statements, did you all incorporate the South Park episode with student athletes?
That's so good, man. So good.
Perfect.
The last thing I will say here, I think this is what's going to be really interesting moving forward. But football has it, I would say, the most difficult out of all the sports. They need the biggest budget, right? You're not going to win here unless you invest the majority of your resources into football. Like, that's the way it's going to go. But football has to, they have to budget their allotment over the course of 2 cycles, whereas every other sport only has to worry about 1. So football will have to recruit a full roster and a third or a half of another roster before their money is replenished based off of the laws. A lot of this is going to be challenged over the next couple of months in court. I think that's where we're headed. Like, there's a lot of things in here that everyone's like, I don't know about that. It's not bird law. I don't know about that. I don't know if that's what we're holding up here, right? But I think there's going to be some things that stick and things with some of these clauses and bylaws that go away. And it's just going to be really interesting to see. But I can tell you, that just this week, guys, as a full-time advertiser, planner, clients are asking about this. What does the house settlement mean for NIL, for advertising? What does it mean that we have to go through a clearinghouse? What does it mean that all of our deals have to be evaluated? What does that look like? How much time does that add? There's a lot of questions that are out there, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds. So this is what I have been exclusively talking about. Say that again?
I said I'd rather go do landscaping. That's too much brain thinking for me.
Yeah. Well, you wonder why I get in here and you're trying to talk about football, and I'm just like farts.
You're
My
like
brain
dead.
doesn't work this late at night because I've been literally thinking all day. But no, it's going to be really interesting. And between that, the Vince Marrow stuff, just the shape of the direction of the program and the recruiting right now, I feel really confident that Louisville is going in the right direction. Is it college football hosting playoff, getting a Honda Accord tattooed on my butt cheek? I don't know yet. We'll wait and see. But I feel confident that college football playoff appearance is on the horizon. It may not be, in the words of the legendary Howard Schnellenberger, it's a collision course, right? It's a matter of time.
Yep. The only variable is time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. So, all right. Any closing thoughts?
What are you talking about? Stanley Cup final still going on. Sergei Bobrovsky stood on his friggin' head, man.
Hey, they were fighting last night. Them dudes couldn't care less about what the damn outcome of that game was. It was just, let's fight until the whistle blows.
Yeah, they got beat 6-1, so you got to resort to goon tactics to try and get in the head.
Bro, they got their ass kicked in those fights, too. I mean, Florida was killing, and they were pummeling him. Poor dude's mask was broken. Like, it was just game over for him.
Edmonton is the type of team that you do shithousery after the whistle to try and get their head when they're beating you.
Yeah.
You don't do that to a team like Florida because they'll put your ass into the ice. Like,
right.
It was wild. But 2-1 series right now. I might be wrong. This bad boy might be going 5. So,
hey, on the other side of things, the NBA Finals, the Pacers, Thunder, 2 small market teams. We're acting like nobody cares, but in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting finals we've seen in quite some time. I have been to every single Pacers Eastern Conference Finals of my lifetime. They've been to 4 or 5 of them now. I am so upset that I don't get to go see the finals. Not only that, but a friend of mine from high school coaches for the Thunder, and I literally am dying to go watch these games. It's incredible, man. I'm so locked in on the finals.
You've been watching them. What are your thoughts on the little shitty little PNG finals digital trophy they dragged onto the court?
I have so many. That we should have the trophy at half court. We should have Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, and Mike Breen. Don't serve me this fucking Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson bullshit. I need Jeff Van Gundy. I need, with all due respect, there goes that man. We're doing the NBA a disservice with this broadcast crew. But the basketball, Tyrese Halliburton, the
Halliburton,
the Shalaban. We've seen the correlation with the NBA to terrorism has been a wild run, man. Wild.
Well, all right.
Wild.
What are we talking about? This Friday, Freedom Hall, LFA Louisville.
Okay.
Have to be there. It is Lance
What's
Moore.
LFA Louisville?
LFA is a fighting promotion, mixed martial arts fighting promotion. I would say UFC here. Big gap. LFA.
Okay.
Where's Bellator?
Bellator, I don't even like Bellator and PFL. Are so fucked right now. LFA is probably your best regional promotion for professional athletes. Lance Lawrence, who I trained with at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, going to, I don't know if I'm going to go help him with his weight cut tomorrow. I'm a little nervous about that because that means I'd have to, I'd be in there freaking in a sauna. But he's fighting this Friday against Javier Reyes. It's going to be a banger of a fight. Todd Pickett's fighting as well Friday from Louisville. So 2 Louisville guys, local guys that are going to be banging it out Friday. Yeah. Lance in the main event. It's going to be absolutely, can't wait, Jacob.
You going to take your shirt off?
Wait to be back in Freedom Hall.
You gonna take your shirt off?
No, I'm not gonna take my shirt off and paint
man.
Just bleed on it. But I can't wait. Being back in Freedom Hall is always fun, but to get to watch fights in there, that's gonna be exciting.
Just because I know you don't like the way I pronounce it, we'll make the Cup final what you're talking about, Jacob. What I'm talking about this weekend, Montreal Canadian Grand Prix Formula One.
The 51st state's having the Grand Prix?
Yeah.
From the Pink Seats Podcast, out.